vision for is actually to inspire women to excel in technology careers. So when we do talk to each other later, ask us how we want to do it. Okay, so that's a conversation starter. So we hit the 300 mark like last week, so we're very happy. The reason why we're so happy, the reason why we're so happy because it's all organic likes. It's not like we force people to. It's not like we force people to like our page or we didn't pay Facebook
organic likes.
Advertisement. So we are running our JavaScript themed event, meaning we do like 3 months with a topic and so on. So we don't want to do a touch and go thing like every month different stuff, then you forget about things. So we do like a 3 months of something. In this case, it's JavaScript. So we had our JavaScript event started last month. It will end next month. So today, or rather this month, it's on episode 2. It's an opinionated rundown of JavaScript frameworks. Basically, Hassanin, or he likes to be called Has, would do a quick rundown of the famous frameworks out there. We're going to cover Angular, Ember, a bit of React, and feel free to ask any frameworks that you know he will try to answer you, I hope. That's his website there, very beautiful, so I wanted to showcase that. Next is, we're going to start our Slack channel. We think that we just want to talk to each other. I know a lot of you here are very techy, very smart people, and you probably read a lot of blogs or articles that you want to share. You want to tell the world about things sometimes, and we're going to start this really soon. But the thing about Slack is you need people to invite you in. So do PM us, we will probably publish this on Facebook and so on. Alright? Except we have Bill, and apparently I speak to him over coffee, and he said that all the other apps he kind of try to use different JavaScript frameworks if he can, just so that he can not read what people think of this framework. He doesn't read what people think of Angular, he doesn't read what people think of Ember, but he himself has dabbled on it, so he has his own opinion about different frameworks. So it's not all from online knowledge. So some of the things you might recognize from here, KFC, obviously the shirt that he's wearing as well. You have fans. Curiously, I know curiously because I saw it on the age before it was suspended. Go Get as well is quite popular. So you got to connect to Has. Go to his Twitter at @lala_1, and I don't know what's so complicated. Yeah, that's his website. Okay, that's just about Has. I don't want to talk so much about him. He will introduce himself later.
Yeah, most of my slides anyway.
Yeah, just give him like 1 minute of airtime. So next event, episode 3, the last episode of JavaScript theme is going to be at Makespace. We will post up more information where Makespace is. It's actually next to Job Street in Jalan Sultan Ismail in KL. Do take LRT to most of our events because I know that our venues are all in the middle of the city, heavy traffic. We'll post more of that in a while, later after this event. It's going to be on Milkscripts, Grunt, and Gulp. Some of you may have very familiar with this. We want to make it interactive, so bring your laptop next month. So book your calendar, 9 September. Finally, hey, that's all. Yeah, so I'm just going to quickly, 7:30, we're not even late. I'm going to head over to Has. Can you just give him a round of applause?
Hey, Has.
Hi guys.
Hi.
Trust and Alfred. Hi. I've got 2 mics here. We're going to do something before we get started. Let me introduce myself just a little bit more. My name is Hassanin. Ahmad, Mohammed, Hassan, Ahmad. Okay. That's it, I promise. Okay. I'm originally from Iraq. Okay, but my family moved here about 21 years ago. Yeah. And I've always wanted to be a programmer. But when you finally become a programmer, somebody tells you you have to be a programmer of some type of industry, right? So you gotta pick something like insurance, banking, some of this boring stuff. But then startups came along, and then they're a lot more interesting. You get to build different kind of products, interesting kind of products. You get to build them really fast. You get to build them really fun. Okay, and then you get to experiment a lot because you do a lot of things all at the same time. It is risky to try too much too soon. but I've had the opportunity to try quite a bit of JavaScript frameworks. I mostly do Ruby on Rails. That's my day job. I found people to pay me to do that. And JavaScript is just everywhere. Before I started with Rails, I was doing PHP, and for that I started with J2EE. So that was the first year of me becoming a programmer. I was on J2EE. I believe it took me the entire year to get set up. Okay, reference now. JavaScript Enterprise Edition is really difficult to get started with. Let me go through my password so we can get some slides.
J2EE.
Not so loud.
Do you know the Wi-Fi?
Yeah, it's guest. Go to Mind Valley guest and wait for the login.
Alright. So if my voice breaks, don't make fun of me. Okay, you guys are too quiet. That is very dangerous. Okay, because the next slides that we're going to see are pretty boring. So how about we introduce ourselves to each other? Okay, the format is your name, what do you do, and one interesting thing about you. Okay, if there's nothing interesting about you, some of you will come to that, I assure you. Okay, just let me know how many years of JavaScript you've been doing, okay? Is that okay?
Okay.
Is that okay, guys? Hey, come on! Alright. You want to start?
My name is Hassan. I work for Master Technologies, global consulting firm.
You got the. Go to any website.
Few years, more than
Yeah. One interesting thing about you.
My name is Ayas.
Yes, go ahead, go ahead. I was just like thinking if we can get it louder.
I'm a student.
Okay.
1 year. This thing was I frequently visit Reddit.
So you frequently Reddit?
Yeah.
Me too.
Redditor.
That's very good. Alright, well, this is the format it seems.
Hi, I'm Kimberly. Only started coding a few months ago. One interesting thing about me, I'm really obsessed with cats.
Obsessed with cats. That's the future, you know, right?
Oh yeah!
Crazy cat lady? Okay, we got crazy cat lady.
Hi, good evening. I'm actually Nicholas. I actually am a WordPress web developer nearby, and I have just also completed a very nice AngularJS project,
Very
which
nice.
you all can see later if you want. And the interesting thing, I'm trying to run a couple of websites. One of them is findrecycler.com.
Findrecycler.com.
Yeah. And
What does it do?
it locates your nearest recycling facility.
Very good.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
welcome.
Hi, I'm Ziggy.
Hello. Come on guys, look live, look live.
I'm a software developer in mapping company.
Mapping, okay.
Yeah. For about 2 years.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Yo.
Hello, good evening.
Hello.
Blue. Yeah, my first encounter with JavaScript was called Hassanin.
Yeah, very nice. That's a very interesting thing about you.
I'm Cedric and I'm zero experience on development. I just want to introduce.
Oh, that's great. Hey, give a round of applause. So easy to come. Thank you so much for coming. Nice. Nobody does. That's good.
Hi, my name is Firdaus, software developer. I'm GS for maybe 10 years.
10 years.
Yeah, not 10 years.
Okay, 10 years.
Do lots of web, but yeah, not the real.
Okay.
Impressive stuff that you do.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that. Okay.
Interesting about myself.
Two kids. Nice.
Hi.
Mm.
My
Hi.
name is Lydia. Interesting thing about me. I left my job in investments 9 months ago to become a software developer, and I've been building on Ruby on Rails and a little bit of JavaScript, but really.
What kind of projects you work on? Do you tell everybody?
So one of the amazing projects that I worked on is actually KFit.
Oh wow! Look at that! Look at that!
Mm.
That was a coincidence, guys. Believe me.
Hi, I'm Karin. I'm a hustler basically. I know nuts about JavaScript, so that's why I'm here to learn. Interesting thing about me, I guess, I'm trying to learn Rails on my own.
Rails. Okay, that's great.
It's Rick. Yes, IT sales. Interesting about me is I dream to become a rocker.
The rocker. Yeah, there's a lot of JavaScript rockstar jobs out there. You're very close.
I'm Fox. I'm a software developer in the Indonesian field. So
I'm sorry, did you say Indonesian field?
Indonesian field.
Okay, right.
So interesting to explore more about JavaScript.
Of course.
Hello. Hi, my name is Farid. I'm a student. I'm currently a student of KS. Just big fact, I'm going to finish my internship.
You got a finish what? Oh, okay. Well, what did you do in your internship?
Only web.
Did you do JavaScript? Okay. That's not enough web.
Well, hi. My name is Alik Kemandik, and currently I'm doing Ruby on Rails.
Very nice. I've seen none of you at the Ruby on Rails meetup.
A side note.
Okay.
Today I want to do something.
Okay.
Hello. Hi.
Mm.
Still student.
How long have you been doing JavaScript? That's awesome.
My name is Alan.
Hi, Alan.
Kari's father.
That's very nice. Please give a round of applause. My parents encouraged me a lot to program, so thank you, sir. A little story, when I was trying to start programming, one day I looked up Java, and the second day I looked up JavaScript. I thought they were the same. Not a joke.
Mm.
You want to say something?
Oh yes, please go ahead.
Hi, I'm Lydia. I like the
No, really? I wouldn't have guessed.
Hello everybody.
Hello.
My name is Michael Leo from the Singapore project. One interesting thing is that I've read the whole freedom of information enactment in the state of Selangor, and I actually understand it.
Oh wow, first person in the Selangor of Selangor. Got it. Was it good or not? Everybody looks very tired.
My name is Manjuna. I'm a backend developer.
Nice.
The last time I used JavaScript was Gozo.
Oh sorry, what?
Gozo.
Good.
5 years ago.
Of course.
Interesting thing was me. I love
Formula
Formula 1.
One. Very nice.
Hi guys, I'm Jeremy. I recently quit my job to actually pick up coding
Excellent career choice.
2 months ago.
Parents must be proud. What were you doing before this?
I was a marketer for a consumer goods company.
Okay, sounds
Yeah.
fishy. Like consumer good.
Okay, I know a bit of code and not that proficient with JavaScript yet.
That's fine.
Something interesting about me, I like to sleep.
Sleep.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Jeanette. Jeremy, I quit my job a few months ago as well.
Nice. The revolution is good.
Yeah, I know a little bit of JavaScript.
Okay.
Not,
That's great. What were you doing before this?
I was a writer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I write stuff and I put it on Instagram.
Okay. You're still gonna write stuff, I'm sure?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right, good.
Celine.
Hello.
I know a little bit of JavaScript, but I didn't do any programming job right now.
Okay. How did you learn JavaScript?
I was a developer last time.
Oh, wow, okay. Then why did you quit? It's the best job in the world.
I tired of programming.
It happens, guys. It really does. That's good. Thanks for coming, though.
Hello, I'm Juliana. I'm a designer.
Nice.
So my JavaScript skills are really good. That's all. And I'm a guinea pig.
Alright. Fast lady and guinea lady. Give me friends.
My name is June Ahmad.
Hi.
I graduated economics degree a year and a half ago, but I have since been a programmer mainly in Python.
Right.
But I'm currently picking up JavaScript just so I can do a job that I have right now.
Ah, that's great. Is it?
I climb 3 times a week.
Flying.
Rock climbs.
Oh.
My name is Daphne. I'm from University of Malaya, and I just know what JavaScript is this morning.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you all started.
Yeah. That's here to learn.
Hi, my name is Danish. Not really a techie, but I'm really interested in what's going on in the States.
That's great.
Interesting thing about me, I'm from Maldives.
Oh, very nice. How long have you been in Canada? 4 years.
Hello, I'm Faizra. I'm a Rails developer. Interesting thing about me is I think I love to travel
You love to travel?
alone.
That's great. Why alone? It's dangerous to go alone.
So
Take one of
maybe
these.
I want
Good evening, everyone. My name is Yixuan, call me Xin. And yeah, I'm studying economics and in University of Malaya. And I was just told about JS by my friend here who googled about JS this morning a few hours ago. So
that's great.
Oh, wow.
Okay, and the thing is, I actually bought this ticket to bring her here today. So it's so good. So this is another really different thing for me. But I'm so happy to be here today to meet all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. We're very happy to hear it. Yeah, one last.
My name is Corinne. I'm about to first year at my degree.
Oh, wow. Hello. Alright, let's get cracking. I assure you this is going to get more interesting from here onwards. Joe. Alright. I have that cute image in here. This one. Hey, look at that. Alright, so we got through this bit. Everybody always asks me, even I'm asking the same thing, why is JavaScript so fucking difficult? Okay, and nobody has an idea, I assure you. Nobody has an idea what they're doing. Okay? So it's okay. It really is. So take it easy. Okay, it's a step-by-step process. JavaScript is hard, as we are about to find out. It is really, really hard to learn. One, JavaScript is a interesting language. Okay? It is not an object-oriented language, so it's a little more difficult to get your head around. And the one thing that JavaScript does really well, and really bad at the same time, is that it runs everywhere in whatever way that you call it. So you can call it in the same file, you can call it in a structured file. So this leads to a lot of spaghetti code. A lot of code that you're not going to remember 3 days from now, I am sure. This does what again? And everybody knows how JavaScript continues to build on itself, and then you do this callback after callback. So what a callback is that something that happens after you trigger something, right? So when you do programming, right, there's a lot of things that happen sequentially. Okay, and in JavaScript, you continue to call callbacks. Callback after callback after callback. 3 callbacks later, you have no idea who's calling who, and all your console log messages are not even going to help you. Alright, standard library. There are a lot of great programming languages, and ones that are great have great standard libraries. Okay, JavaScript is not one of them, not up until recently. So JavaScript has come a long, long way, okay, but it usually sucks. Okay, another thing, JavaScript is not modular. Structuring code is really difficult because you cannot separate your code into different modules that do different things. Okay, there are prototypes in JavaScript that pretend to be stuff, and a lot of people work around it to make prototypes do different things that they wanted to do. But most of the time, it's just a tangled code in more tangled code. Alright, and our most popular item as to why JavaScript is so hard to learn. Because there are so many misguided resources out there. And it's not because I know where all the guided ones are, it's because there are so many of them. Okay, for every framework that you guys have mentioned, you can use JavaScript. So JavaScript is literally in almost every single web project out there. So can you imagine that every single person who's writing web code is also writing JavaScript code? Okay, so best practices are only left to the more hipster Node.js developers. Okay, and the rest of us mortals are just looking around endless blogs and snippets that we're just chunking into our code. So, it's going to make it work. Okay, because nobody sees the code, right? So it's like, alright, it works, let's go. And then you forget about it 3 days later, you have no idea what's going on. So it's okay to not have an idea of what's going on, because JavaScript is really difficult. This is really how I feel about it. It's like I'm trying to embrace it, but I have no idea what to do with it. Alright, there are new changes, new developments. Okay, Node.js. Node.js has taken the JavaScript community from one of the most hated communities around to somewhat of a more elitist community. It's either extremes, but then it has at least elevated the standards of JavaScript writing. So that's great. Fantastic libraries. More and more libraries are being written every day by great developers. Everybody knows jQuery. Raise up if you have heard of jQuery. Come on. Come on, everybody, that's it, okay.
I love it.
That's great. So jQuery makes writing JavaScript very easy, but at the same time, a lot of times people confuse JavaScript and jQuery. You're like, do you know jQuery? You're like, yes, I know JavaScript. Do you know JavaScript? Yes, I know jQuery. Okay, so there's a lot of things that get confused. Okay, but there are great libraries out there. There's _JS, there's Lodash, there is a ton of them that I can't even name. Communities. This is important, especially for me. Every time there is a new technology, anytime there's a new framework, okay, it's very difficult to jump into it. It's like not everybody's living on the bleeding edge. So I wait for it to mature a little. Pick up the one that has a big community, ensuring that there's going to be some type of resource for me to go and look. Okay, documentation is really hard to look at sometimes, especially when you have no idea what's going on. So if there's simpler tutorials out there written by a lot of members of that community, that really does help. Okay, so big communities. But again, because JavaScript encompasses so much of web development, these big communities are actually part of a bigger subsection of communities. Okay, so there are a lot of people who write JavaScript on the back end with Node.js, write it on the server, so that helps. A lot of people write it purely on the front end. A lot of people write it just for writing libraries. And even more recently, people can write mobile apps with JavaScript, or even native apps, desktop apps. anything you can do with JavaScript. This is how awesome JavaScript is. Yeah, I restrained myself from saying that word. Alright, and there are incredible resources now, especially this one. The Mozilla Developer Guide. If you're new to JavaScript, if you've coded JavaScript for 10 years, if you've ever done JavaScript, we'll do JavaScript every day, we'll do it. Okay, this is the best resource out there for JavaScript. Believe it or not, it is not js.com. So Rails, you want to see good documentation, you go to Rails. You want to do like good documentation on Laravel, you go to Laravel. But JavaScript, Mozilla Developer. This is exactly where it's at, guys. Alright, it's Node.js. What the hell is this? Let's read this. Node.js is a platform built on Chrome's JavaScript runtime for easily building fast, scalable network applications. Okay. Node.js uses an event-driven, non-blocking I/O model that makes it lightweight and efficient. Perfect for data-intensive real-time applications that run across distributed devices. Hands up if you understood this sentence. Me neither. This is what is wrong with software development. Things sound a lot more complicated than they really need to be. What is Node.js? It is JavaScript that runs on the server. Thank you, that's it. It is a lot more than that. Okay, but this is not going to help either, right? It's like, what the hell is Node.js? Event-driven, non-blocking I/O model. And this is the description of Wikipedia. Okay? So this gives it this, cloud of mysteriousness. It's like, I'm never going to be able to write this because I don't even understand English that is being described in, right? This is how I feel. You guys better laugh, there's a lot of these coming up, okay? Alright, so what does that mean in much slower? Okay, JavaScript, okay, typically runs on
client.
On the client, thank you. Okay, which actually means the browser, there you go. Okay, but Node.js allows you to write JavaScript with the same API, with the same programming language that you already know and you're already writing really bad code with. Okay, but now you can do it on the server. Okay, it is built on V8. Okay, so V8 is a JavaScript engine. So this is what transpiles the code that you send from the server on the browser. So this is why there are performance issues from one different browser to another, because each browser has a separate engine that they run and compile JavaScript in. Okay, so V8 is the most hyped of these JavaScript runtime environments. Okay, and it is what powers Chrome. Does anybody use Chrome? Yes, if you're not, you're living life wrong. Alright. And it's written in C++. So the way that JavaScript gets translated into your browser is written in C++. It's not unusual. Okay, event-based language. What is event-based language? We spoke about what an event is like. Okay, this gets triggered, that's one event. Data gets sent, that's another event. Things like this. Okay, so it is not an object-oriented language. It is an event-based language. Okay? Okay, what is it good for? It is for socket-based programming. Because Node.js makes it so quick and so efficient to write JavaScript. Okay, a lot of the applications that do socket programming. Does anybody know what socket programming is? Great. You want to explain what socket programming is? Okay, no, that's okay. Okay, so a socket is when you have an open connection to a client. Okay, so think of the first thing that comes to your mind is a chat application. Okay, as soon as you open it, you can send a message, and that message gets sent instantaneously, right? So there's a socket going on in between. Okay, but if you were going to write this on the server with a regular programming language, which is not built, okay, the same way that Node.js is, it's going to be really difficult and it's going to be slow and insanely expensive to scale. Okay, so that is what Node.js is really good for. I think you guys have forgotten how to laugh. Alright, so these are a bit more on events. So anything that happens on the server, anything at all, at any time, will trigger a non-blocking event on the application. Okay? New connection to the app, somebody logs into the app, data being received from an uploaded form. It's like when you click something on a phone and then it's sent back. That's an event. Okay, and how it's handled and sent back down. That's all also an event. You guys get the point? I think so. So, what good is Node.js if my project is not primarily on JavaScript? If I'm not going to translate my existing code base into JavaScript, right? So what good is it? Alright, you guys get the hang of it, okay? Alright, so what are the great things about it is the Node package manager. Okay, so Node package manager has elevated programming into another paradigm, especially JavaScript programming. You guys ever remember having to change a version of jQuery? And then going, you have to download it, put it in the source, change that little number. Oh, you missed that number. You missed it was minified. Minified now. Okay, now with Node package manager, you can do it on the command line. A lot more progressive languages have already adopted similar package managers. Okay, but Node package manager, again, because JavaScript is so extensive and it's used so widely, everybody can use Node package manager to handle dependencies on the project. Alright, JavaScript libraries. What is a library? A JavaScript library is a library of pre-written JavaScript which allows for easier development of JavaScript-based application, especially for Ajax and other web-centered technologies. What is with the buzzwords, man? It's like, what is other web-centric technologies? What does that mean? Nobody knows. What a JavaScript library is a bunch of nice little codes that do things similar to one another, typically written by one person or a few, okay, and that's it. That's all JavaScript is. It's a bunch of functions that have already pre-written by somebody. So when you call a DOM selector on jQuery, somebody went and wrote that for you. So you don't have to do document.get by ID, get element by ID. So you don't have to do that anymore because somebody wanted to go and help you. Okay? So stop reading anything on Wikipedia. Let's try. Every single project I've ever worked on, every single developer felt like this is how they were writing code. It's like whatever it is, it needs more jQuery. Okay, so people throw in lines after lines after lines of code that mean nothing. Eventually does not even get used. And doesn't it not piss you off when you go to a code base and you see code that is commented out? What are you leaving it there for? Is there no Git? Alright, now we finally made it. That was a very long intro. Alright, JavaScript frameworks. A lot of people use this word very loosely and it makes it sound more dangerous than it is. You're like, framework, I don't want to try that. So difficult. It is not. It's designed to make it easier for you. It's designed to make your job faster, simpler. Okay? It wants you to focus on the right things. Focus on the business logic of your application. If you're sitting about thinking of how am I going to create something from scratch over and over again, you're not doing it right. Okay? If you're thinking about how to log in a user on Facebook every single time that you start a project, it's very difficult. So, frameworks help you a lot. And this is not just for JavaScript. And almost every single language, there is popular web language aspects. Okay, there is a framework that is popular, and a lot of programming languages have been popularized by the framework. Rails has made Ruby a very major player. So before that, who was writing Ruby? Not many people that I knew. All right. So, hold on, I think okay, yes, I have a question before that, and then, okay. So what is MVC? So a lot of times when you look at the framework, they say MVC framework, okay? MVC is a very, very simple concept, which is the model, the view, and the controller, okay? I'm gonna try to explain it very simply because it's not as difficult as it sounds. The model layer is what interacts with the data. Okay, that's it. Think of it as your database, and your database does stuff. Okay, so you have your usernames, right? So you have the names, anything that's to do with that single user. That is the model layer. The view is what your user views. Very simple. And the controller is what's in between them. I like to imagine that the controller is a robot that does this. Nope. That's it. That's all MVC is. Alright, let's go back to this one. When do you use a JavaScript MVC framework? There's a lot of different opinions as to when you should start moving upwards into something like a framework. Okay? But typically, just think about this first one. Is if you can separate your data, okay, from your application code, you're good to go. So if you have data that's coming in from somewhere else, or even if it's somewhere that you built yourself, right? If you have a set of data that's parsed like a JSON, like an XML, that's it, you're good to go. Because all JavaScript frameworks do is that they make the application look great on the front. Okay? If you've seen something like Facebook, Facebook does a whole lot of stuff. Okay? I'm not sure if we should do this, but if someone was to log into their Facebook, okay, and if you look at your application, open a chat window, okay, and then toggle to like a group or something, that chat window never goes away, okay? It is no longer getting refreshed. Only the content, the main content, that is getting refreshed. So that comes into the single page application domain, which is another buzzword thrown around a lot. It just means page that doesn't refresh. There's no button that goes somewhere else, just data. Because most of the time you have your header, your footer, your sidebar, that does not change. So why do you need to render it again? Why so expensive, right? And the other one is, screw it. Whenever you feel like it, just give it a try. Try it. If you're never going to try it, you are always going to think they're difficult. They're a lot less difficult than you imagined. Alright, let's go. This is a huge problem with JavaScript. Frameworks do this really well. They help you get over this. When you write framework code, somewhere deep down, some very nice person took a lot of time trying to make it compatible with every browser, almost, that's good, not me. Okay, so you don't have to do this anymore. So you don't have to write code for one single day and debug really, I'm not going to stress, unfortunate code, that the client is not happy about. And you want to get on to the next thing at work, and then they were like, but that's flickering, why is it flickering? It's like, it does that. Alright, let's take a 10-second break, guys. There's been a lot of talking with not much emotions, I must say. Disappointed. Alright. I got something.
Boxes of pizza there.
Oh, right. Okay. What's up with that? Okay. So, AngularJS. How many of you here have heard of AngularJS? Alright, amazing. That's very nice. How many of you have written AngularJS? There you go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Excellent. AngularJS is amazing.
Yes.
It is the first framework that made sense to me. I tried a few until AngularJS kicked, and I was like, oh, okay, this is what this does. Okay, so AngularJS is an open source framework. It is maintained by Google, so there's a good credibility as to who is maintaining this application. And this is also important. It means that this project is not going to get shelved immediately. Okay, the code quality is high on this thing. People like Adi Osmani are writing some nice code for you. Okay. Okay, and it's mostly built for SPAs. Okay, SPAs, like we spoke about, is a single page application, which only means page that is not refreshed. Nothing more complicated than this. This is especially true when you first start out with AngularJS. Okay, because it is very easy to get started with. You're like, Awesome. But then you learn something and then you be like, no, this sucks. And then you be like, oh wait, I didn't get it the first time. And then you be like, no, this really does suck. And then this goes on and on. This cycle never ends. Alright. Some of the core features. These are what I deem to be the core. Okay? Two-way data binding. Why is this important? If your application doesn't know about state, about what state your code is in, what state your user is in, which is very important. We're going to talk a lot more about states because it is what makes these JavaScript frameworks very, very, very important. It's like, because managing state is really difficult. Even if you're dragging something, that is a state of that div. Okay? So somebody needs to manage this code. What happens when I do this and what happens when I do that? And if I check this box true and then I drag this, what happens? These are all states. Okay? And two-way data binding helps you. One, with very pretty looking applications. Okay, you can have things that appear easier. And also to manage states. AngularJS is also MVC. MVC is almost always the same, but not really, if that makes sense. They always refer to it as model viewer controller, but each framework, each adaptation of MVC behaves a little differently than it does. We'll take a look at it in a bit. Okay, another thing about AngularJS is that templating is really easy. When you start out and then you have to write HTML in JavaScript, that is difficult. Have you ever written HTML in JavaScript? I highly doubt it, but okay. So templating in AngularJS makes it really easy because all you are doing is writing regular markup and then you are adding a little bit more of it. And the last one, these are all the ones that I think to be the core. Okay? Dependency injection. Okay, this is something like modularization that we spoke about a little bit earlier. How do you separate your code? Great. Now I've separated my code, but I don't need to call it all at one time because not everything depends on everything, right? Okay, so we have dependency injections. Only call the code that you need when you need it. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Does it make sense if we move on?
Call the code when you need
Seems like
it.
the pizza's more interesting than I am. Alright, let's look at the first thing that we have here, dependency injection. So we already spoke about this. So I do this a lot. I overspeak what the next slide is going to be, and then when it comes up, I'm like, oh, should have pressed next. Modular development. Why is it so important? Because you want to compartmentalize each bit of your code. Yes, thank you, I can speak English. Okay, so if you write code in a modular way, it is easier for other people to work with you. Okay, and most of the time, in a real world scenario, a lot of people are going to be working with you. And sometimes you may be away, someone has to go look at the code, fix one tiny little thing. But if that one tiny little thing takes me 3 hours to understand why I need to do it the way that this is, or why you wrote it the way that is, then this is making stuff very difficult for you and I. One, you're making the code very hard for everybody else to write. And at the same time, you are going to forget this in 3 days. That's it, just 3 days. That's your code dependency in your project. Okay? So write code that you believe that will help you understand it by itself on day 4. Alright. Also, very important. I say very important because you guys are judging me. But testing is very important in software development. If you don't test your code sucks, and the world's gonna explode and everybody's gonna die. Okay? So testing is really important doing. Okay, and if you write it in a modular way, okay, if you write your Angular module, then you can test it modularly. Okay, even though something depends on something else, it doesn't have to be tested in that way. As long as each section, each module works as intended, that's great. Alright, so little code snippet. This is how you would call a dependency injection. This is how you will inject some dependencies into a controller. Okay, so we have scope. Scope is the first dependency on almost any controller in JavaScript. Any Angular, excuse me. Okay, scope does a lot. Scope does too much things sometimes, and it's going to be very difficult to maintain what scope is, because at the same time, scope engulfs everything, and it also manages states. This word, I'm going to explain it more as we go on. State and managing state. It's very difficult. Okay, controller. So we have scope. We want to use scope in our controller, so we call it this way. Ideally, you wouldn't need to put that, like a square bracket in front of it, but AngularJS does this thing we added in not so well. Okay, when you minify your code, it does not know which dependency you have injected. Okay, so we need to pass it in as a string. Okay, because of the way that the minification happens, is that they rebrand or like rename things, like scope, variable names, and greeter. Okay, but if we pass it in as a string, it will be kept in the same way. So that's the only way that we know which dependency is referring to which. And this took me forever to figure out. It's like, alright. Yes, okay. Again, so I didn't know how to do that animation thing on the thing. Okay, so what I did was that I write step 1, 2, 3, 4, and then when I need it again to look like it just loaded, I'll make a new slide. So this is a new slide. It kind of threw me off guard, but okay. Alright, number 5, directives. Directives are a AngularJS specific term. Okay? What it is, it's basically... Okay, has anyone used HTML5? HTML5? Yeah, everybody? A little bit? Okay, so in HTML5 you can name some tags the way that you want to name them. Okay, you go like, oh, this is the way GL tag. And pay attention. Okay? So directive is basically that. You can create a tag on your own, but you want that tag to do something, right? Okay, I'm going to write this tag, but then I needed to draw out a bunch of code. Okay, so one good example is a login form. Okay, we're going to need it in a few different places, and we want it to behave differently on the login page. So the full, the full form. If it's on the header, then you put a drop in or something, right? So the directive is very good for this. It's repetitive pieces of HTML code that has functionality that you can control with. Anybody can guess what's the next word that I'm going to say? State. Okay. I'm going to ask it again. Okay. So if you want to control a single piece of code, HTML with JavaScript and state, this is a great example as to what a directive can do. All right. Let's look at what a directive looks like. All right. Modularized code. This is the template URL directive, and we want to be able to call it. Now, the first directive that we have into here is called my customer. So my customer is going to return us a template of whatever that customer login details is going to be, right? Okay. And all we need to do to call it the next time, somewhere else, anywhere else, is just by calling if my customer. And it's going to go ahead and fill out code on its own. Isn't that great? So the code for this would be in my customer. And you see this right here? Scope customer name. So this is state. So this customer, this current customer, what's her name? Naomi. Where does she live? Okay, and this is what we're going to get printed out here. Oh, I'm pretty sure I had that. Okay, never mind. Modules. Modules, we've already explained this to that. Containers for different parts of your code. One type of module is a controller. So that's an entire module. Okay? This controller is on the first page, and it's the user's page, right? So anything on the user's page will be within this controller, right? So that is a module. Module. With modularized code, because only the code for this user lives in this module. Okay, and its modules also create reusable component packages. Okay, so you can reuse it all over your app. Typically, a lot of people like to write different modules for different features of an AngularJS app. Although it is MVC, it is not always structured in that certain way. Okay, because we'll take a look why in the next slide, I guess. Okay, controllers. All of the logic that goes into the view is handled by the controller. So this is a wee bit different than a controller in like a server-side language, because it handles state. Okay, all the logic for state is handled inside the AngularJS controller. Okay, and the first thing that it does is it initializes scope, which is the scope of everything on the screen. Every single detail can be referred to and inferred to by scope. Okay, and it also manages the state of scope, because scope can have many objects. It can entail many different things. Okay, and also scope can react to certain things. It can react to events like clicking events, dragging events, everything. Everything is a state that needs to be handled somewhere. Okay, and scope does a lot of this for us. At the same time, scope is thrown around quite loosely sometimes, so it becomes very difficult to remember what scope is doing. Okay, so you can follow that, but it's very fun to play around with. Alright, the view. So this is what the user views. Okay. In the view, you can also still have logic. Okay, which is frowned upon by certain people, but it's alright. So your data, where like the model brings in, and what the user sees is exactly the same thing, right? So right before you display them this data, you do some calculation on it, you do any type of computation with it, and then you go ahead and show it and render it on the browser. Alright? Everybody so far? Okay. It gets fun. I don't know. I thought this was fun. Alright, filters. So filters is one of the most popular built-in JavaScript directive. Sorry, AngularJS directive. Okay, and all what it does is that it takes a certain list and it filters it to a different kind of list, like a subset list. Okay? So, and this is very hard to do in JavaScript because you have to re-render and render and like do all this computation on your own. Okay, but in Angular, so this is very spanking and shiny. Okay, you have like an array called an array. Okay, and each of this item has an entry name. Okay, so what we can do is we can filter it using the name. It is very, very easy to look into AngularJS because there's a lot of things that are built into it. All right, this is something that I dislike about AngularJS. Okay, AngularJS does not have a lot of structure in how you write code. So there's not much boilerplate code that you jump in and see. They like, all right, this goes here, this goes here. Because you can do anything that you want, anywhere that you want, which is coming back to JavaScript. Okay, so that is less than ideal. So a lot of people have tried to overcome this by coming up with best practices, coming up with good ways to do stuff. And this is one of the ways that you can structure your apps, and I prefer it to be this way because having done a lot of Rails, I have bought into this idea that this is the best way to structure code. So you have app.js, so this is what initializes your code. Everything that goes into the start, what do they see? You know your routers, your dependency injections. Okay, and then controllers. So controllers is, think about controllers is what the user would see in the URL. So /user/1, /login, stuff like that. Alright, let's look at some Angular code. Okay, because my computer is not here, so it's going to be a bit more difficult. Oh, that's fine. We're going to go to the back. What's up? How are you doing? Alright. Alright, so, okay, yes, this is big enough?
Yep.
I don't know, guys. Can you guys see this?
Yep.
Alright, great. Alright, so have you guys seen To Do NVC? Let me show you this website first. Okay. To Do NVC. This is a fantastic way to get me to log into the Wi-Fi here. Okay. It's there. Take a break, guys.
We still have some pizza.
That's the saddest announcement in the world.
That's very nice.
Alright. Yeah, we're back. Come back. Stop being.
Wow.
Alright, so we're gonna take a look at what To Do NVC is. Alright, great. Okay, so To Do NVC is a website that runs through a lot of JavaScript frameworks, and they write a bunch of code for you, so you can see how that code will look like, and you can get the hang of it. The rule is simple. Every single application has to do the exact same things. So all the examples that you see here are completely generated, by the way. Okay? And then they all do the exact same thing. Just one thing, that's it. Like, they have this filter right here. Okay, let's take a look at one. Yeah, so this is the application. This is part right here on the right side. Okay, it's a To-Do application. What you can do is you can like you guys are not doing enough of that. Alright, so this is your To-Do list. What you can do is you can check, uncheck. If you have more than one To-Do list, you can do this. You can clear completed. So basically this is what this website does. And we're going to take a look at the examples of this website, okay? Alright. Alright, so the first one, NPM. So this is the HTML for this page. As you can see, it's not very much. Okay, let's take a look at how we initialize this application. So this is exactly like what we saw before. We have controllers, directives, and services. These are three modules, and the first one we start off with is app.js. So this is where we say something like new app. So this is where the application starts from. So we're going to create our first module, and we're going to call it Do MVC. So first module is the name of your application. So make sure you get the namespace in. And then what we want to follow on to it is ng route. So ng route, as you can guess, it is the package, it is the module that handles routing. So if you want to go to a second page onto the application, if you want to go back to login, anything that is in the URL that you can see in the URL, that is a route. Okay, so how you handle routing in AngularJS is by using ng route. Alright. So this is how a first configuration for a route will look like. So if somebody comes on to our controller, to do controller, we're going to show them this template, to do MVC index. Alright, and then we are going to resolve some stuff. So to do storage, so it's trying to get some things off of storage, right? So this is a service that we're going to look at in a second. Alright, and here are the actual routes in the app. So if you go to whatever the application is .com, so that will be like just a backslash. So this will be your first route. So if you just go there, it's going to go to our first route. Yeah, route config, right? Okay, which is going to go and initialize call controller to do controller and show that page. That's all it does. Everything okay so far?
Yeah.
All right. So and then the other route that we have is where you have a status. These stages include like completed, to do, later, or whatever the status that you want to pass in. You see this like a column right before this? So this means variable. So this means anything that we pass in here, we can read it as status in the controller as a parameter. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Alright, good. Okay. So if anybody else goes anywhere else onto this application, like if they were to go to like todombc.com/yada yada yada, okay, it will just go ahead and redirect into this first route. Okay, so this way you will not have a page that does not exist on the application. Okay, this is just like a fallback route. Alright, let's look at to-do controller.
Oh, this is very good.
Alright, so this is the first control that we're going to call. Alright. So this is how we initialize a new module. This is how we initialize a existing module, because we've already done this with to-do MVC, which is our application, and we want to create a controller inside this module. Okay, we're going to call it to-do controller. Okay, so to-do controller, and we're going to call onto this scope. So this is the word that we were using just now. So we're going to see what scope does in a bit, and we're going to call on route params. This is where we get the parameters that are in the route. So something like status, this is where we get it from. Okay, and then we have filter and store. Store is something that we have defined ourselves, or the author of this application. Okay, so we'll take a look at it in a bit. So first things first, we're going to localize whatever scope is. So we're going to try to get what to-dos that are in scope, in like whatever they are in right in front of the user. We're going to get them from store to-dos. So where can we get this store to-dos? This is from local storage. So this whatever that is saved on the browser, because it's not using anything in the database. Okay, so it's going to take the storage to-dos from the browser, it's going to put them to scope so the user can continue to see their to-dos, and it's also going to localize it into this variable called to-dos. And then we also have a new item called new to-do, which is a new string. If we could show. Alright, so this is where new to-do will be. Okay, so alright, so that was new to-do, and these are to-dos. Okay. And over here we're gonna put a watch. Okay, so watch is a listener. So what can we listen out to? We can listen out to events. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to listen out to two different things. One is remaining count and completed count. Okay, we'll check. We'll get to that in a bit. So remaining count is how many to-dos that you still have that you've not completed. So that's the first thing that we're gonna try to do. And out of this, all these to-dos, they have attributes, and we're going to filter them by their first attribute, which is completed. Okay, so it's either true or false. So we're going to try to filter them by the ones that are false or incomplete. Okay, and then we're going to get the count. So these are remaining counts. So we have this one item left. So these are the ones that. So if you change this, see this number, it changes as soon as you do this, because it is watching it. It's very spooky, it's like ANSA, it's watching it. Okay, so as soon as you change it back, and because this is no longer completed false, okay, or completed true, yes, it's no longer completed true, okay, you're going to have one item left. Okay, so let's take a look again at this logic. So the remaining count is going to filter the to-dos based on completed false, and it's just going to get the length of that. So that gives you like 0, 1. Completed count. Okay. So we can also do something like watch, to check in the exact same manner, but in reverse. but that would mean that we're watching two different items. So to make this a lot more, I don't know what the word is, to make it easier. Okay, we're just gonna go on things that we've already got. Because every time the to-dos change, we have remaining count. So we don't have to look for it again. And to-dos, we've localized this before. So all that we're gonna get right here is all of the to-dos. We have 2, and the remaining count is 1. So the ones that are completed are 1, because we only have true or false. Alright, and this is what manages all checked. All checked. So if we have a lot of stuff on here. So right now all checked has become false again. Okay, because this takes. Has anyone seen this notation before? Like a bang right in front of a variable?
Yeah.
Do you guys see this? Okay, so what this means is the opposite of. Okay, and it's going to give you a true or false. Okay, if there is 1, so JavaScript figures that 1 is true. So this is going to give you false. Okay, so if there is anything that is remaining, okay, so all checked, it cannot be all checked. Does that logic make sense? Okay, so right now all checked, did you see this? This change right there. Okay, but if there is something that is, still pending to do, okay, they cannot be all checked. Okay? Or we can do this, that means, oh, there you go, all completed. Okay? How's everybody doing so far? Any questions so far? Okay, guys, ask me the questions now, because if it's going to be easier to point at some code and be like, oh, what the hell is this? Just ask away. So if you have any questions. If you don't, that's fine, we can move on. Alright, let's skip on to this and let's look at, that's nice. Very, very good. Define what scope is. Okay, so scope is everything that you see on this page here. Okay, so now we have an array of to-dos. So that is scope to-dos. Does that make sense? Okay, so and then if we have like scope new to do. So let me show you something. Hold on. Let me show you the instrument.
Next hackathon project.
Yeah.
It can be an MVC, an MVP.
Alright. So now we have the scope item called scope.to-do.
I should have used this by your hand.
Alright. And now we get to call it in the view. Okay, in this template we get to call it. Okay, so now what we're going to do on top of it is we're going to do a repeat. So all we're going to do is cycle over these to-do items. So we're going to call to-do in to-dos. So for each to-do item, then we're going to go ahead and create a new single one of these. Okay, so we have a toggle, which is this toggle right here. Okay, we're going to have a button to delete, which is this button right here. And then we're going to have a save edit. So if we were to click onto here, something right here, we can do something and then edit, right? So all of this is being repeated for each single to-do item. Okay, but we do not know exactly which to-do is doing which to-do. So we're going to have a list of them. Does that make sense at all? Yeah, so anything that you want to leave in the view, you would append it to like a scope. So that will make it available for you to call to the view. Alright, let's look at add to. Alright. So the first thing that we do is we're creating a new JavaScript object. This is just a plain old object. Okay, and we are taking the new to do, whatever this string of this text box was, and we're trimming it to get rid of the spaces on each side. Okay, and we're gonna assume that every time you create a new to do, surely it's incomplete, right? So we're gonna start with this rule. That this is the title of this item and it has not been completed yet. And if this is our first validation, again with this notation that this one right here. So if new to do, if it does not have a title, we're going to return. We're going to break out of this code right here. We're not going to go and continue because we do not want to save anything that does not have a title. All right, and we have this scope item called a saving. Okay, maybe you want to display to the user that you're doing something in the background. Maybe you want to display a loader. Okay, and the only way that you would know that this is happening is by managing state. Alright, and now for the first time that we're looking at an interesting kind of state. This state is saving. So the overall application is saving something. That is the state of the application now. It's not loading, it's not destructing itself, it is saving something. Okay, so that we're going to start with that, and then we're going to do an insert. This is all just regular JavaScript code. This is the to-do item that we just initialize, and then on success we're going to go back and put this new to do as empty. You see right there? So because new to do should only be one single item. At one point we can only create one new to do, right? So once we're done with that, we're going to go ahead and set the title to be new, and then that's it. Oh, and then finally, if you've ever seen a try catch block or a then finally, a finally always runs, whether on success or failure. Finally runs always. Okay, so is a service. Yeah. So the question was, what is store? So store is a service that has been defined. We're going to take a look at that in just a second. All right. Okay, so the last thing that we want to do on this method, on adding this new to do, is to set that that is no longer saving. We've already saved. This is successful. Whether the save was successful or not, we're not doing it anymore. Okay? Alright, let's jump on to the service. Has anybody used a service in any kind of application before? So a service is something that does one thing and one thing only, and it does it really well. And usually we encompass this bunch of code in a service is because it does a lot of things as well. Just say if you have, like when you're creating a new to-do, you would like to send a notification to the phone, you would like to send some analytics. So you don't want this code, this logic to be in your controller. So you want it to hide it behind something else. So you call on to a service. A service is just a very convenient design pattern. Oh, great. Okay, so anything that is like an Angular JS module, okay, is initialized with a $sign, so we do not conflict with the namespace. Okay, so the injector is what helps inject things into your dependencies. So we want to call onto these new dependencies, we want to call on to injector, so you can do some things like HTTP get, and then you can put it into API. Does that make sense at all? Alright, here we go. Alright, so the first thing that we want to do, it's okay, man, we all heard it. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is when we're going to have a route. So if you have a REST API, you would like to go somewhere to save your stuff. Okay? So if API is available, if we get true on this line right here, then it is going to get whatever API returns and it's going to inject it into the service. Does that make sense to you? Okay? Better. Okay. And at the same time, we are going to try to get local storage. Okay, because this application does not have a backend API. There is no database that is running somewhere. There is no API that is serving all this content. There is only local storage. So every time you open it in your browser, it looks like it's working well. You open it in some other browser, it has no idea who you are. Okay. So we're going to start with our first injection, which is the factory API. We can see it. Hold on. There's our alright, this is what we will do. Alright, so we are going to get this looks a lot more complicated than it should, but all it's doing is taking the last item that we have inserted, and then we're trying to insert it into local storage. The way that local storage handles data is by putting it all in one big gigantic string. So you're gonna have to handle this on your own. So it's like if you want to know that this is a new item, how are you gonna refer to it? If you want to say that you are updating an existing item, you also want to handle that. Okay, so this is the service that takes care of this. All right, I think it's much for your screen to see. There's all right, let's go back to this. All right. So, in short, this is what I feel about AngularJS. It is incredibly easy to get started with. You get to do a lot of nice things. You get to write code that is not confusing. You get to see stuff. It's very interesting, and it's very important that when you are developing, you see results. It is very important because it's the only thing more demotivating than Manchester United is like having to do code that does nothing, or like you keep debugging code. Why does it not work? Why does it not work? Okay, it's very difficult, especially when you're starting out. It puts you off. So AngularJS is fantastic on that. Okay, it lets you come up with code really quickly. It does new and interesting stuff. But the downfall is we worked on a big application with AngularJS, and eventually it got harder and harder to manage. Okay, and this is true. As soon as you grow to like a medium-sized application, AngularJS becomes a bit of a pain. There's way too much separation of code. Again, but it's getting better. There's Angular 2.0 coming up. Okay, it's already up, but you cannot write it with JavaScript. So this might be a bit confusing. We'll get to that another time. But try Angular 1 first. Give that a shot. What version did you write your application with?
I think it was 1 point, the latest one.
1.43. Okay.
Something like that.
Yeah. Okay, so give that a shot, give that a spin. You don't need to write the most fancy application. Just give it a try. I promise you will enjoy it, and then you will want to try different things. Okay, we're gonna hurry it up through like Angular 2. Okay, go. I choose you. This is the word that you go. You got it. Thank you. All right, so we're gonna start with part 2. But by the way, when we were first talking about the content for this talk, Keem was like, "Can you do 5?" And I was like, what? Yeah, so maybe that was like a bit of a stretch. So we did 3. So we're gonna look at AngularJS and 1 more. I promise that'll be all. And then you guys can go home and try it. All right. So we're gonna try to go through this faster. What is AngularJS? Has anybody heard of AngularJS? Is it me or is it more people? Okay. Feels like more people have heard of AngularJS, which is great, because AngularJS is almost as popular. It is not as popular as Angular, but it's just as popular. And it is, yes, yet another MVC framework, another one in the bunch. Come on. Yeah, once you do one MVC, you think you know MVC, but Neo can do it much better. Okay, this is good. Alright, so what makes AngularJS different from Angular? Let's take Angular to start with. Okay, is convention over configuration. Does anybody understand what this term means? Yeah? Okay, so a convention is how a group of people have decided that, okay, we're going to write this and we're going to write it in a certain kind of way. Okay, so if you don't write it this way, I'm going to help you do that. Okay, so AngularJS does not have a lot of configuration that you do manually. So a lot of apps are going to look the same. This is the same with PHP frameworks like Laravel. Let's something like WordPress. Okay, just imagine there's like WordPress 2, it's like not Drupal. Okay, and each time that you come into this code, it kind of looks the same. So it gives you a kickstart into starting how to write this. Okay, so a lot of convention. So what are the type of conventions that is referred to? Routing, that's one of them. Okay, so if you have users, that's going to refer to the controller that is named users, which corresponds to the object of array, because it's for many users. Okay, if the controller is named user, it's going to correspond to the controller named user with the object type object for singular. Okay, and Ember does this really well to the point where if you have not defined a route or a controller, it does it for you. So the application code does not fail as hard as you imagine. Okay, so it does a lot of things out of the box for you, which is fantastic. Okay. All right. So when we use Ember, Ember is not beginner friendly. It really isn't. When I tried it, that was the one that I really wanted to work with, but it sucks for a beginner. It's like you have no clue what's going on. Okay, so this might disappoint you quite a lot. Okay, but let's start with your application. If your application has a moderate to high complexity in terms of UI, okay, and you want to manage specific states, alright, Ember is a good example. Okay, if you have intermediate to advanced developers on your team, that's a good indication. If you're starting out and you're trying to get something quickly, start your own. It's going to take you about 6 to 7, 8 weeks to get familiar with Ember. And I'm not kidding you. It's like a lot of people can pick it up faster, but for you to really understand the philosophy behind it, it's going to take a long ass time. And I know this because we picked Ember.js as a framework to work with on Touristy. And incidentally, nobody knew Ember.js. So that was a bit of a struggle, but Chris, who was also working on it, was like, we're going to struggle through it, we're going to figure it out. Okay, but it is very complex to begin with. Alright, so another thing is the other two types. And other two times where it's okay for you to use Ember, it's okay anytime, but I would suggest, okay, is if you're not in a hurry, it's like you want to do some learning, maybe you want to do like a project, do not start learning it in a hackathon. It's like way fail, man. Okay? Or if you already know Ember.js, if you know Ember.js, you've done an application with it, use it every single time, over and over again. It's great. Oh yeah, sorry. No sponsor. Alright, Ember, come on. Okay. If you write code like this guy, do not use Ember.js because it's going to take a lot of time, okay, for you to get around quickly to get it. So if you want an application tomorrow, or it works today, okay, do not do Ember. Angular might be okay. My keyboard is at home, I swear. Alright. So something about the Ember community which is really interesting. Okay, it has a lot less developers, and not in terms of like people building, people who are adopting it. There are less people using Ember.js, okay, but there are a lot more packages for Ember.js. There are a lot more high quality content for Ember.js. It is because the communities, although smaller, okay, are more involved. This also comes as a, like a byproduct of its complexity. So you need a good understanding of it. So the community has grown to be a good one, I hope, not a sloppy one. Okay, and there are a lot of bigger companies using Ember.js as opposed to AngularJS. Alright, so if you're going to do Ember, there's 3 things that we're going to look at Ember. So there's Ember, the framework, there's Ember data, the layer that does the, you guessed it, data, okay, and Ember CLI. This is not pronounced P, please do not say T. There are people who say P, it pleases me to hear them say P. It's CLI, command line interface. Alright? Okay, so Ember, it has a lot of structure coming out of the box. It gives you boilerplate code. So it's a lot easier to see, a lot more structured to write. And there are so many tools that Ember lets you use. This is essentially very true. When they first launched Ember, Ember Data was an incomplete project. Okay, so if you just type on on Google, Ember not working with Ember data, okay, the internet will literally burst into tears of phoenix, of sadness. Come on guys, be sad. It used to suck so much, it's come such a long way. Alright, so Ember data interacts with any type of persistent store. So this could be your APIs, this could be your like an actual application app. Alright? And it also serves as a type of ORM, object relationship mapping. So this is what gives you association between like objects. So user has many classes, classes have many students, you know, like that kind of stuff. So Ember data allows you to do that. Alright, Ember clean. Alright, so it gives you commands to get started. So once you install Ember CLI, then you can do like Ember generate controller, Ember generate resource. Very, very, very similar to Rails. Okay, so that is very helpful, especially if you're coming from a Rails background. Okay, it's so much easier to do things on the command line. And then also you have unit and integration tests, also built into Ember CLI. And Ember CLI also handles deployment for you. No other framework does this except the one that I'll show you later. Okay, so these are all very, very shiny features, especially for more complex applications. But as much as I love Ember CLI, this happens all the time. Okay, so this is also part of the complexity of getting on with Ember. There are so many things that could lead to other things. Okay, like I'm running the same code that I did an hour ago, but what is with 300 lines of deprecation warnings? Okay, so like this throws you off, especially the first time that you start to do some type of JavaScript framework, and then you're like, this is too much difficulty, this is so bloated, I don't want to try this anymore. Alright, and see, this is what I was telling you about the animation thing on the slides. Okay, so this is what I deem to be the core features. One is the router. Ember has a controller, but it does not behave like a regular controller. What a controller is in every other language and every other framework is called a router in Ember. So although this may sound better, it's more descriptive of what it really is, okay, but it's going against the current, so that's also difficult. Okay, just now we took a look at how we got some routes in AngularJS, right? So this is a much simpler way to do it in Ember. Okay, so root URL. It's always going to be blocked. So anytime you go to any route, and there's no route, you're going to go back to the root URL. Okay? So even the way that it's written, okay, it's a lot less JavaScript, okay, than more of Ember. Okay, you have to learn Ember, okay, in terms to get the application running. But Angular, you just need to know JavaScript and you're good to go. You know, you can get a lot of stuff done on it. Alright, controllers. This is a very different concept than what is a controller. But this helps you manage state. Okay. State gets managed with Ember controller. You guys remember what state is? If there's one thing that I would love for you guys to remember by the time you get back from this is states. Managing states for applications. And what is going to help you to manage state? How can you manage state better in your application? Instead of like having all this on-click, all this listeners that's going on. If you can manage this as state, your application could look a lot cleaner. Okay, Ember controller also defines what view goes with which model. Okay, and there are two types of controllers. One is for objects, which are singular resources, and arrays, which are for many. This again is the one user, many users. Alright. Then we have views, templates, and components. I'm sorry, this session? Yes, some type of session. Okay, but more of, so you wouldn't really say it's being dragged in a session, but that is the state of the component. Like it's the state of a div. Okay, it is what is happening in that session, but not really session information. Is it? I promise I'll explain it better. Okay, so views, templates, and components, they're different. Again, Ember does a lot of things different from a lot of other frameworks. So views does not mean what the user sees. See, this is confusing coming in first time or from just one MVC experience. Okay, so templates is what the user sees. Okay, but what sends data to these templates is the view JavaScript file. Does that make sense? You have to see to believe it. Alright, and the last one, components. Can anyone name what this is the equivalent of in AngularJS?
Module? No.
I'm sorry, who said that? Yeah, that's the one, yes. Directives. So these are bits of HTML code that need to have their states managed. Okay, and then you want to reuse them over and over again. A good component, which is part of this. Okay, a good component is the like button on Facebook. So that goes on so many different places, and it's always doing some type of manipulation to a certain likes, to a post, to a picture, to an article shared somewhere on a website, but they're all essentially the same component, the like button. Can you imagine if you have to rewrite that every time? Alright, so we're going to take a look at components first. So all this component does is going to return some HTML, which is going to be an h1 tag with the person title inside of it. And over here is that we're going to call the action. We're going to call the action, which corresponds to actions. Hello, hello. And then we're going to pass on some detail. So that's going to be the first argument in that function. It looks really clean, right? Just imagine just seeing line 6 to 8. Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Okay. It only makes sense to one person. Okay. Alright, do you guys want to see Ember code? Or do you guys want to move on? Let's see Ember code. This time faster, I promise. Okay, so the good thing about this is that we already know what the application does. Okay, so this is, we're going to see the Ember implementation of this. Okay. Alright. So start on here. So this is the main HTML that you're going to see. This is what generates that to-do list with that to-do form and then all these nice little buttons. Same thing that you had with AngularJS each. So we want to do this for something, right? So we want to loop over these items and we're going to create a list item. Okay, so this notation, okay, is generated by handlebars. Handlebars is another JavaScript framework. So this is also what makes AngularJS a bit higher in complexity than AngularJS, is because it has so many dependencies, external dependencies. So now you have to manage the versions of Ember, Ember Data, Ember CLI, and every other framework that it's dependent on. Okay, as opposed to Angular, okay, it's just not. Angular, you just have Angular, that's it. You move on with life goes on. Alright. Okay, so now we're doing a check. What is this check for? Can anybody tell me, please? What are we checking for?
The cursor.
No. So
the cursor.
No. Somebody's saying that word. See, I've only said it 1,000 times today.
Edit mode.
Yeah. Can you say that again? Everybody, say it together. 1, 2, 3.
Stage.
Come on, there's more people than that. Okay, 1, 2, 3.
Stage.
Yay! Let's go. Alright, so right here we are manipulating the DOM in terms of like if this state, okay, is editing, which is what we did like just now. Okay, we're gonna show a text box instead of just that blue item. Let me show you that in this context. So if you double click here, this is the state of is editing. You see what else happened here? When we changed the state of this application, it did not do any type of like a server-side call. So we're gonna check this out again. Okay, see? There's nothing happening on the network. Okay, nothing. It's because this is managed internally on your client. On your browser, this is where all the Ember code lives. This is where all the JavaScript application code live. Okay, so you don't have to make separate calls, but the DOM will change accordingly. Okay, so this is fantastic stuff. Alright, so if it's not editing, so we're going to go ahead and show the same thing, the checkbox, and then the label. Interesting stuff here. So action, we've seen this just now, right, in the component. Okay, we're going to call action on, so this is our listener, on double click. So now, I click twice, I'm clicking once, nothing. I double click, and gets it. So this seems very readable, right? It's like, it's right there in front of you. Because this is where it should be. Exactly where it's, being read. Because when you read your templates, because when you want to see what the user sees, you also want to see what logic drives this. Okay. Let's look at how this app is initialized. Alright. App.js. We're going to start right here. That's it. It took a lot more code to get started with Angular. This is a lot more boilerplate. Okay, but can you see this? This is an ECMA 6 module loading. I only load the code that I need. Okay, but this looks a lot more readable, a lot more maintainable than dependency injections in Angular. Because Angular, you have to worry about exactly where it's going to go and which controller is going to go. But over here, this makes it a lot simpler to call. Okay, and then we're going to start initializing. This is the first thing, application adapter. Okay, so you're going to see a lot of this, DS. Okay, what is DS? Data store. So there's going to be a lot of DSs. There are way more things to learn in Ember.js than there are in Angular. The API is a lot more extensive. You can do so much more with it. There's a lot more handling that. There's a lot more boilerplate code that is not viewed on the application, but Ember takes care of it for you. Okay, let's look at the controller. Alright, so again, we have 3 controllers right here, but they essentially all look at the same thing. One is to do controller. This handles one single to do item. Okay, so each item is going to correspond to this when we do something like double click. So this is the controller and the state for each individual item. Okay, so each item is editing. Okay, unless we do this. So we can't edit 2 at the same time, right? Let's see why. Sorry, before that, this was the action that we called on just now when we did the double click. Is to do. The only thing that we changed was the state of this. Okay? So double click only changed the state. We did not change the view, we did not change the DOM, we did not change the data or how it's displayed. We only changed the state. Alright? So we can go ahead, we have all this. Let's look at done editing. So done editing, all it's going to do is going to get the title, trim it so you can get rid of the edges. Alright? And if there is no title, it's empty. This is an Ember helper on manipulating strings. Okay, so you don't have is empty as you would call it like this in JavaScript. You have to check the length, you have to check this like when it's nil. So you have to do like more than one checks. But Ember gives you even more helper code like this. Okay, so that makes Ember a lot more full feature, if that makes sense. Okay. If not, then we're gonna. If it's not empty, then we're gonna have this. We're gonna set the title to whatever this buffer title was, and then we're gonna save it. So basically, much of the same stuff over and over again, written in different ways, but it's more about how the application is structured and to what extent do you structure different controllers? To what extent you look at models? Okay, so when you see a model in Ember.js, right? You get to call it as a to-do, and then you have data store model extend. So you have to specify the attributes that are on it. Okay, like title and is completed. Okay, if not, you will not be able to call it. But this was not the case in Angular. Angular, you can throw in any type of stuff, any type of like a value, because that's how a plain old JavaScript object works. Okay, but this is not how Ember works. So this is what I mean when there's like complexity that you have to learn Ember, not just JavaScript. So, in short, alright, Ember.js is a lot more difficult to start with, okay, but in its eventuality, as your application grows bigger and bigger, it is extremely easy to manage. Everything is separated in different kind of like controllers that are very specific. Okay, then you have a stable API, which was not existent a few years ago when Ember.js first started up. And there's also a very good community around it. Okay. Wait, hold on, I forgot my keyword. Alright, so we're done with Ember. We're going to look at the last point. Alright, we're going to look at Meteor.js. Has anybody heard of Meteor.js?
Yeah.
Alright. You guys seem sleepy, so we're just going to clap for the heck of it. So you guys come on, clap. Go! Clap harder. Let's clap for Meteor.js. Okay, that's a reason.
Meteor shower.
Alright. This is true. This framework is magic. I hate to call it a framework. It's a platform. We'll get to that in a second. Okay? So what is Meteor? Meteor in like an opposite to what we just see is a full stack web framework. So we looked at Ember and we looked at Angular.js. Both of them only handle the front end side of stuff. Only what the user sees, what the session was, okay, and as soon as we get data, we have to pass it on to somebody else. We have to send it somewhere else, right? Okay, but Meteor, it comes with an application server and database connection. Okay? So you have to get onto their platform, which is basically it's a Node.js, MongoDB, which I hate, and then yeah, that's it. And then a bunch of Meteor stuff. So what is different about Meteor? Okay, you get to use the same API calls from the framework on the client and the server. Again, so the client is on the browser, things that are interacting with the user on their own browser. Okay, and the server, which is what we're trying to handle on the back end, right? We get to do the same calls exactly. Okay, so this is great. So you have to learn one language, one like domain language, and then you get to interact on both of them. So it's awesome. Also, Meteor is subscription based. Do you remember how we did like a watch for Angular? Okay, this comes right out of the box for every single item ever in Meteor. So every time you initialize an item in Meteor, it is automatically being subscribed to. As soon as there's changes to it, it's going to change immediately on the application. And when I say subscription, it does not only mean your own subscription. Okay, it means if two people are looking at the same code or the same page on different browsers, but they're both subscribed to the same piece of data, it changes in real time for both. That's amazing. Without having to write any line of code. Alright, so it also comes with a database. So MongoDB also has a domain language, which is also very, very similar to JavaScript. So again, you will write your JavaScript on the server, on the client, and on the database. Okay, not exactly the best of solutions, but it works, and it's a very well-funded solution. 2 years ago, like in 2013 or 14, I can't remember, they raised $11.2 million to develop, not to market, to develop. So the community is awesome, well funded, so the project's not going to go anywhere. Okay, and it is essentially a platform. If you want to do deployment on their framework, on their servers, you can. They have a hosting. Okay, if you want to do learning, if you want to do corporate learning, anything that you want to do, anything on the Meteor.js platform is available. All right, but there is a lot of magic that is involved in Meteor. I laughed so hard at this picture. Like for way longer than anyone should have. Alright, so Meteor.js has 7 principles. I did not come up with this myself. This is the 7 principles of Meteor.js. Alright, some of them are weird. Data on the wire. What does that mean? It came with this language. I don't like it. So data on the wire, all it means is data is the only thing that's being sent back and forth. You do not send back HTML. In server-side programming, when you load a page, the server sends you a lot of HTML, and the only thing that the browser does is render it, like displays it. But in Meteor, the only thing that happens is that we send data back and forth, which is on the wire, like the interwire. Okay, so the second principle is one language. We spoke about this. Server, client, database, all use JavaScript, which can be a nightmare. Alright, third one, database everywhere. This is a very controversial subject because Meteor.js does not only have one database, it has 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, unlimited. Okay, in every instance of every client, there is a mini Mongo adoption. Okay, so there is a small version of that database directly on your client. Okay, what this gives you is this gives you snappy shit, as if you were like developing locally. Okay, so it does not go to the server. When you save something in Meteor.js, it saves it locally, and then automatically, okay, it sends it back without the user knowing. So the user does not see this. You, the developer, do not need to do anything about it. Okay? So it takes whatever data, it sends it,